Lieutenant Sarah Chen had always been small for a soldier. At barely 5 feet tall and weighing less than most equipment packs, she looked more like a lost university student than a military officer. The other recruits at Forward Operating Base Titan had made this abundantly clear from day one. "Hey, Minnie Chen," Sergeant Morrison called out as she struggled with her oversized combat gear. "Need a boost to reach your bunk?" The barracks erupted in laughter, the same cruel sound that had followed her through 3 months of training. Sarah ignored them, methodically checking her equipment. Her small fingers moved with practiced precision over each component of her standard-issue gear, even though most of it had been modified to fit her diminutive frame. The plasma rifle looked comically large in her hands. The tactical vest hung loose despite being the smallest size available, and her helmet wobbled when she walked too quickly. "I don't understand why Command assigned her to our unit," whispered Private Jackson to his bunkmate. "She's going to get us all killed when the Vrex attack. How's she supposed to fight those 8-foot monsters when she can barely carry her own weapon?" The Vrex. Even their name sent chills through the camp. The alien invaders had swept through the outer colonies like a plague, their superior technology and massive physical presence crushing human resistance wherever they encountered it. Forward Operating Base Titan was humanity's last stronghold on the planet Kepler 442b, and everyone knew the final assault was coming soon. Sarah had requested this assignment specifically, much to everyone's confusion. With her exceptional scores in xenolinguistics and battlefield communications, she could have had a cushy position at Command Central, far from the front lines. Instead, she had volunteered for the most dangerous posting available, knowing full well that her physical limitations would make her a target for ridicule. "Chen," Colonel Martinez's voice boomed across the training ground. "My office, now." Sarah jogged toward the command center, her oversized boots creating small clouds of dust with each step. The other soldiers watched her go, some shaking their heads in pity, others placing bets on how long she'd last in actual combat. The colonel's office was sparse, functional. Maps of the surrounding terrain covered the walls, marked with red zones indicating Vrex activity. Martinez was a career soldier, scarred from countless battles, and he studied Sarah with the analytical gaze of someone who had seen too many good soldiers die. "Chen, I'm going to be direct with you," Martinez said, not bothering with pleasantries. "The men don't respect you. They see you as a liability. In 3 days, when the Vrex launch their final offensive, unit cohesion will be critical. I can't have soldiers questioning their teammates' abilities." Sarah stood at attention, her face impassive. "Sir, with respect, I didn't request this assignment to make friends." "Then why did you request it? You could be safe in a command bunker, using your language skills to decode intercepted communications. Instead, you're here, where the average life expectancy is measured in hours once the shooting starts." For the first time, Sarah's composure cracked slightly. "Because, sir, I believe there's more to winning this war than just shooting at the enemy. The Vrex aren't mindless monsters. They're intelligent, organized, and they have their own motivations. If we're going to defeat them, we need to understand them." Martinez leaned back in his chair. "And you think you can do that from a foxhole while being shot at?" "I think the best way to understand an enemy is to face them directly, sir. To hear their communications in real time, to observe their tactics firsthand, to be where the action is happening rather than receiving sanitized reports hours after the fact." The colonel studied her for a long moment. "You know, Chen, you might be the bravest soldier I've ever met or the most foolish. I haven't decided which yet. Perhaps both, sir." That evening, Sarah sat alone in the mess hall, picking at her rations while the other soldiers clustered together at distant tables. Their conversations were subdued, the usual boasting and bravado replaced by nervous tension. Everyone knew the reconnaissance drones had detected massive Vrex troop movements just beyond the horizon. Private Rodriguez, one of the younger soldiers, approached her table hesitantly. "Lieutenant, can I ask you something?" Sarah looked up, surprised. Rodriguez was barely 18, fresh from basic training and clearly terrified. "Of course. Is it true that you can actually understand what the Vrex are saying? Like their actual language?" "Yes, I've studied their communication patterns extensively. It's a complex linguistic system that combines vocal elements with electromagnetic field modulations. Most humans can't even perceive the full spectrum of their communications." Rodriguez sat down across from her, his voice dropping to a whisper. "What do they say about us?" "When they're fighting us, I mean." Sarah considered her answer carefully. They call us the tiny persistence. They don't understand how creatures as small and apparently fragile as humans can continue fighting against overwhelming odds. It confuses them. That's actually kind of a compliment, isn't it? In a way, yes. The Vrex respect strength and determination. They're puzzled by humanity's refusal to surrender, even when facing certain defeat. Rodriguez nodded thoughtfully. Maybe being small isn't always a disadvantage. As night fell over forward operating base Titan, Sarah lay in her bunk listening to the distant sounds of alien machinery moving in the darkness. Her fellow soldiers slept fitfully, weapons within easy reach, knowing that tomorrow might bring their final battle. But Sarah wasn't thinking about the fighting to come. She was thinking about patterns, about the subtle frequencies that carried meaning beyond mere words, about the electromagnetic signatures that revealed more than the Vrex intended to share. She was thinking about the gaps in their communications, the hesitations that suggested uncertainty, the repetitive phrases that might indicate ritualistic behavior rather than tactical commands. Somewhere in the alien chatter that filled the night air, there was information that could change everything. Sarah was certain of it. She just had to survive long enough to find it. The camp's Laughingstock closed her eyes and prepared for war, knowing that when the sun rose, she would either prove herself worthy of her uniform or die trying. But she also knew something her fellow soldiers didn't. Sometimes the smallest voice carried the most important message, and sometimes understanding your enemy was more powerful than any weapon. The first shells fell at dawn, shaking the ground beneath forward operating base Titan like an earthquake. Sarah jerked awake as alarms blared throughout the compound, red emergency lights casting everything in a hellish glow. Around her, soldiers scrambled for their gear, shouting orders and curses in equal measure. "This is it," Sergeant Morrison bellowed over the chaos. "Full combat readiness. Move, move, move." Sarah rolled out of her bunk, her small frame allowing her to navigate the cramped space more easily than her larger teammates. She grabbed her modified equipment, checking each piece with the same methodical precision she'd practiced countless times. The plasma rifle still felt unwieldy in her hands, but she'd learned to compensate for its weight. Outside, the sky was filled with descending Vrex dropships, their sleek black hulls cutting through the morning light like falling daggers. Each ship was the size of a building, and Sarah could count at least 50 of them approaching from different angles. The aliens had planned this assault carefully, cutting off every possible escape route. "Chen," Colonel Martinez's voice crackled through her comm unit. "Report to Command Center Delta. We need you on the communications array." Sarah sprinted across the compound, dodging falling debris from the initial bombardment. Command Center Delta was a reinforced bunker near the perimeter, equipped with the most advanced listening equipment available. As she approached, she could see Martinez coordinating with other officers, his face grim. "Lieutenant, we're picking up massive amounts of Rex chatter," Martinez said without preamble, "more than we've ever recorded before. I need you to monitor their communications and give us real-time intelligence on their movements and intentions." Sarah slipped on the specialized headphones and began adjusting the frequency modulators. Immediately, the alien voices filled her consciousness, a complex symphony of sounds that most humans would dismiss as meaningless noise. But to Sarah, each tone, each electromagnetic pulse, each harmonic variation carried meaning. "They're coordinating a three-pronged assault," she reported, her fingers dancing over the control panel as she isolated different communication channels. "Northern perimeter, eastern gate, and... wait." She paused, frowning as she detected something unusual in the pattern. "There's a fourth group, but they're not using standard tactical frequencies. What are they saying?" Martinez demanded, watching the tactical display as Vrex forces closed in from all directions. "The main groups are discussing standard assault protocols, but this fourth group..." Sarah's face paled. "They're speaking in ceremonial language. This isn't just an attack, Colonel. It's a ritual execution. They're here to make an example of humanity's last stand." The first Vrex warriors breached the perimeter as she spoke. Through the reinforced windows of the command center, Sarah could see the aliens clearly for the first time. They were even more imposing than the intelligence reports had suggested. 8 feet tall, with chitinous armor that seemed to absorb light, and weapons that hummed with deadly energy. "All units fall back to secondary positions," Martinez ordered into his comm. "Repeat, fall back to..." His words were cut off as a Vrex energy blast struck the command center, overloading the primary communications array. Sparks flew from the equipment and the lights flickered ominously. "Communications are down," reported Lieutenant Torres from across the room. "We've lost contact with half our units." But Sarah wasn't listening to Torres. She was focused on her audio equipment, which had somehow survived the blast. The Vrex communications were becoming more frantic, more urgent. Something had changed in their plans. "Colonel," Sarah called out, pulling off her headphones. "They're confused about something. The ceremonial group is arguing with the tactical commanders. They can't find something they expected to be here." "What kind of something?" "I'm not sure, but they keep using a term that roughly translates to the speaking one. They seem to believe there should be a human here who can communicate with them directly." Martinez stared at her. "A human who can speak Vrex? That's impossible. Even our best linguist can barely understand their basic communications." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she realized what the aliens were looking for. "Colonel, I don't think they know about human xenolinguists. They might think the ability to understand their language is some kind of spiritual or technological enhancement. They're looking for their equivalent of a communications specialist." Another explosion rocked the command center closer this time. Through the tactical display, they could see human defensive positions falling one by one. The Vrex were overwhelming their forces through sheer numbers and superior firepower. "Sir," Sarah said quietly, "I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. At this point, Chen, I'm willing to listen to anything. Let me go out there. Let me try to communicate with them directly." The command center fell silent except for the distant sounds of battle. Every officer present stared at Sarah as if she'd lost her mind. "Absolutely not," Martinez said firmly. "You'd be killed the moment you step outside." "Maybe not, sir. If they're looking for the speaking one, if they believe such a person exists, then they might hesitate long enough to listen. And if I can establish communication, you could gather intelligence," Martinez said, beginning to understand. "Learn about their objectives, their weaknesses. More than that, sir, I could potentially negotiate. Not surrender," she added quickly, seeing the looks on the other officers' faces. "But maybe buy us time. Learn something that could turn the tide." Another blast shook the building, and the tactical display showed Vrex forces had broken through the inner perimeter. They had perhaps 20 minutes before the command center itself was overrun. "It's suicide, Chen," Martinez said bluntly. "With respect, sir, we're all dead anyway if we continue fighting conventionally. The Vrex have us outgunned and outnumbered 10 to 1, but they don't expect us to understand them, to communicate with them. That might be the only advantage we have left." Martinez studied the tactical display, watching as human positions continued to fall. His jaw tightened as he made his decision. "Torres, give Chen a portable comm unit and a translation matrix. If she's going to do this insane thing, I want a record of everything that happens." Sarah accepted the equipment, her hands steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "Sir, if something goes wrong—" "When something goes wrong," Martinez corrected, "we'll extract you. But Chen, if you can pull this off, if you can actually communicate with them—" He paused, searching for the right words. "You might just save what's left of humanity on this planet." As Sarah prepared to leave the relative safety of the command center, she could hear the Vrex communications growing louder, more urgent. They were close now, very close. Soon the camp's Laughingstock would face the aliens that had terrorized human space for 3 years. But for the first time since arriving at Forward Operating Base Titan, Sarah felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Sarah stepped through the blast doors of the command center into chaos. Smoke filled the air, mixing the acrid smell of burning electronics with something else. Something alien and metallic that made her nose burn. The sounds of plasma fire echoed from every direction, punctuated by the inhuman war cries of the Vrex and the desperate shouts of human soldiers. She moved carefully through the rubble-strewn compound, staying low and using destroyed vehicles for cover. Her small size was an advantage here. She could hide behind debris that wouldn't conceal a larger person. The portable comm unit strapped to her chest felt heavy, but she knew Martinez and his team were listening to every word. The first Vrex warrior she encountered was standing over the body of Private Jenkins, examining the human's weapon with what appeared to be curiosity. The alien was even more terrifying up close. Its chitinous armor gleamed like black metal, and its forearms moved with predatory grace. When it turned toward her, Sarah could see its face clearly for the first time. 3 eyes arranged in a triangle, mandibles that clicked rhythmically, and an expression that seemed utterly alien yet somehow intelligent. Sarah forced herself to remain still as the creature approached. Her training screamed at her to run, to fight, to do anything except stand there while death walked toward her on 2 powerful legs. But she had to trust her theory, had to believe that her understanding of their language could save not just her life, but possibly the entire human presence on this planet. The Vrex stopped 3 feet away from her, its head tilting in what she recognized as a gesture of confusion. It spoke, and the sounds that emerged were like nothing in human experience. A combination of harmonics, electromagnetic pulses and subsonic vibrations that she felt in her bones. "Small flesh creature speaks with mind voice?" the alien asked, its words carrying undertones of surprise and suspicion. Sarah took a deep breath and activated the translation matrix. When she spoke, the device would convert her words into the complex frequency patterns that constituted Vrex language. Her voice would become electromagnetic pulses, her intonation would become harmonic variations, and her meaning would be carried on wavelengths that human ears couldn't even perceive. "I am the speaking one," she replied, using the formal ceremonial phrasing she had detected in their communications. "I carry the mind voice of the small flesh creatures." The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Vrex warrior stepped backward, its 3 eyes widening in what Sarah could only interpret as shock. It began broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously, calling to its companions with urgency that bordered on panic. Within moments, Sarah was surrounded by a dozen Vrex warriors, all studying her with intense curiosity. Their weapons remained ready but weren't pointed directly at her, a promising sign. They chattered among themselves in rapid bursts of communication that her equipment could barely keep up with. "The tiny persistent has mind-voice capability," one of them was saying. "This explains much about their continued resistance." "The small flesh creature uses technological enhancement," another observed. "Note the artificial amplification of its natural frequencies." "No," said a third, its voice carrying the authority of rank. "This one is natural-born speaker. The harmonics are too pure for mechanical generation." This last speaker stepped forward, and Sarah immediately recognized it as what the Vrex would call a harmony keeper, essentially a combination of communications officer and religious leader. Its armor was more elaborate than the others, decorated with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow in the light. "Tiny, persistent speaking one," the harmony keeper addressed her formally. "Your presence here creates great confusion spiral. The eternal harmony teaches that mind voice is gift of the deep dark between, granted only to worthy flesh. How do small weak creatures possess such blessing?" Sarah realized she was at a crucial moment. Her response could either establish her credibility or result in immediate execution. She chose her words carefully, drawing on everything she'd learned about Vrex cultural patterns. "The deep dark between speaks to all who listen with proper respect," she replied, hoping she was interpreting their religious concepts correctly. "Small flesh creatures may be weak in body strength, but we have learned to hear the harmony that connects all thinking beings." The Vrex warriors exchanged rapid communications, their electromagnetic chatter almost overwhelming her equipment. She caught fragments of theological debate, tactical reassessment, and something that sounded like existential confusion. "This changes the nature of the cleansing ritual," the Harmony Keeper finally announced. "We cannot proceed with standard elimination protocols if the tiny persistents possess legitimate mind-voice capability." Sarah's heart raced as she realized what this meant. The Vrex weren't just mindless conquerors. They were operating under some kind of religious or cultural imperative that apparently had exceptions. For species capable of their form of communication, Harmony Keeper, she said, using the formal address she hoped was appropriate. "The small flesh creatures seek understanding harmony with the Vrex nation. We do not wish to disrupt the patterns of the deep dark between. Yet you resist the cleansing ritual with violence, Harmony," the alien replied. "Your actions create discord spirals that disturb the proper order." Sarah felt the weight of humanity's survival pressing down on her shoulders. "The small flesh creatures resist because we do not understand the purpose of the cleansing ritual. We thought the Vrex nation sought only to destroy us without reason, Harmony." This statement caused another flurry of rapid communication among the warriors. Sarah caught references to primitive understanding and incomplete harmony perception. The speaking one claims ignorance of the great purpose? The harmony keeper asked, its tone suggesting this was somehow significant. Yes, Sarah replied, though she had no idea what the great purpose might be. We have not heard the full harmony of Rex's intention. The alien leader was quiet for a long moment, its three eyes studying her with an intensity that made Sarah feel exposed and vulnerable. When it finally spoke, its voice carried a different quality, something that might have been uncertainty. This creates unprecedented situation spiral, the harmony keeper announced. The tiny persistent speaking one must be brought before the Deep Harmony Council for proper evaluation ritual. Sarah felt a mixture of relief and terror. She was apparently not going to be killed immediately, but she was about to be taken away from everything familiar into the heart of alien territory. Through her comm unit, she could hear Colonel Martinez's voice, tinny and urgent. Chen, whatever you're doing, it's working. Vrex forces across the compound have stopped their assault. They're all converging on your position, but they're not firing. The Harmony Keeper gestured with two of its forearms, and the surrounding warriors began forming an escort formation around Sarah. The speaking one will come with Harmony Guard to the deep ship for proper ritual evaluation. As they began moving toward the Vrex landing vessels, Sarah caught sight of human soldiers watching from concealed positions. Some looked confused, others terrified, but she also saw something else in their faces, hope. For the first time since the invasion began, someone had made contact with the enemy and lived to tell about it. Tiny, persistent speaking one, the Harmony Keeper said as they walked, you have created great confusion spiral in the patterns of reality. The outcome of this disruption will determine the fate of both our species. Sarah nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility that now rested on her small shoulders. The camp's Laughingstock was about to become humanity's ambassador to an alien intelligence that viewed the universe in ways she was only beginning to comprehend. The interior of the Vrex deep ship defied every expectation Sarah had formed about alien technology. Instead of the cold mechanical corridors she had anticipated, she found herself walking through spaces that seemed almost organic. The walls pulsed with a faint bioluminescence, and the air hummed with subsonic frequencies that resonated in her chest cavity. Her escorts moved with practiced efficiency through the ship's passages, their forearms allowing them to manipulate controls and maintain weapons readiness simultaneously. Sarah noted that despite their imposing appearance, the Vrex moved with a fluid grace that suggested their large frames were perfectly adapted to these environments. The Harmony Keeper had remained silent during their journey, but Sarah could sense its continued study of her through peripheral vision. Occasionally, other Vrex would approach and exchange rapid bursts of communication with their leader, always including electromagnetic frequencies that made her translation equipment struggle to keep up. The Deep Harmony Council gathers in the Sacred Resonance Chamber, the Harmony Keeper finally announced as they approached a massive circular doorway. Speaking one of the tiny persistence, you must understand that what transpires here will determine whether your species faces extinction or alternative harmony. Sarah swallowed hard. Alternative harmony? There are patterns within the Great Purpose that allow for preservation of lesser species when they demonstrate proper understanding capability. But such patterns have never been applied to species that resist with violence harmony. The doors opened with a sound like whale song mixed with crystal chimes, revealing a chamber that took Sarah's breath away. The ceiling soared high above, covered with what appeared to be a living star map that shifted and pulsed with different colors. Around the circular room, 7 massive Vrex sat on elevated platforms, each one larger and more elaborately decorated than any she had seen before. These were clearly the council members, and their presence was overwhelming. Sarah could feel their combined electromagnetic emanations like pressure waves against her skin. Her translation equipment was struggling with the complexity of their multi-layered communications. Approach the resonance center. Tiny, persistent speaking one, commanded the largest of the council members, its voice carrying harmonics that made the chamber walls vibrate sympathetically. Sarah walked to the center of the chamber, where a raised platform waited. As she stepped onto it, she felt a strange tingling sensation, as if the platform was somehow amplifying her bioelectric field. Her translation equipment suddenly began working more smoothly, picking up nuances in the Vrex communications that had been lost before. "I am first among harmonies," the large council member announced. "I speak for the Deep Harmony Council in matters of cosmic significance." "You claim to be speaking one for the tiny persistent species?" "Yes, first among harmonies," Sarah replied, using what she hoped was the appropriate formal address. "I speak for humanity with the authority of our military harmony leaders." This statement caused a ripple of discussion among the council members. Sarah caught fragments about primitive organizational patterns and limited hierarchy understanding. "The Harmony Keeper reports that you possess natural mind-voice capability," another council member interjected. "This creates paradox spiral in our understanding of tiny persistent nature." Sarah realized this was her opportunity to learn more about Vrex motivations. "First among harmonies, we do not understand the source of this paradox spiral. Will the Deep Harmony Council share the nature of our confusion pattern?" The council members exchanged complex communications, their electromagnetic chatter creating interference patterns that her equipment could barely process. Finally, First Among Harmonies responded, "The great purpose requires cleansing of worlds where inferior species create discord spirals in the cosmic harmony." Tiny persistents were classified as inferior species due to apparent lack of mind-voice capability and tendency toward destructive patterns. "But now you know we possess mind-voice," Sarah said carefully. "Does this change our classification?" "Unclear patterns emerge," admitted another council member. "Mind-voice capability suggests higher evolution potential, but tiny persistents continue to demonstrate destructive harmony patterns. They poison their birth world, create weapons that disrupt space-time fabric and resist absorption into proper cosmic order." Sarah felt a chill as she began to understand the Vrex perspective. They saw themselves as cosmic gardeners, eliminating species that didn't meet their criteria for higher evolution. But they also seemed to have a complex system for evaluating species that might be worth preserving. "First among harmonies," she said, "the tiny persistents create destructive patterns because we do not understand the proper cosmic order. We were never taught the harmony principles that guide advanced species." This statement caused the most intense burst of communications she had yet witnessed. The council members seemed to be debating something fundamental about their entire worldview. The speaking one suggests that tiny persistents act in ignorance rather than deliberate malice, asked the Harmony Keeper, who had remained silent until now. "Yes," Sarah replied, sensing she was on the right track. "We create discord because we do not know the harmony patterns. If we could learn the proper ways, perhaps we could contribute to cosmic order rather than disrupting it." First Among Harmonies leaned forward, its three eyes focusing intently on Sarah. "You propose that tiny persistents could be guided toward proper harmony evolution?" "I believe we could learn, if given the opportunity and proper teaching harmony." The chamber fell silent except for the subsonic humming of the ship's systems. Sarah waited, hardly daring to breathe, as the most powerful being she had ever encountered considered the fate of her species. "There is precedent for guided evolution protocols," First Among Harmonies finally announced. 3 lesser species have been successfully integrated into cosmic harmony through careful instruction patterns, but such protocols require complete submission to Vrex Guidance Authority, added another council member. "The tiny persistents would need to abandon their destructive patterns entirely and accept restructuring of their societal harmony." Sarah's mind raced as she considered the implications. The Vrex were apparently offering an alternative to extinction, but it would essentially mean the end of human independence. They would become a client species, guided and controlled by their alien benefactors. What would such guided evolution require, she asked, knowing she needed to understand the full scope of what was being offered. Complete cessation of violence patterns, First Among Harmonies replied. Abandonment of technologies that disrupt space-time harmony. Acceptance of Vrex oversight in all matters of planetary management. And most importantly, dedication of your species' mind-voice capabilities to the service of cosmic harmony. Sarah realized they were particularly interested in humanity's communication abilities. The Vrex seemed to view language and communication as almost sacred capabilities, and they were intrigued by the possibility of adding human linguistic skills to their cosmic order. The Deep Harmony Council will deliberate on this unprecedented situation, First Among Harmonies announced. You will remain in protective custody while we determine whether tiny persistence demonstrate sufficient evolution potential to warrant guided development rather than cleansing elimination. As Sarah was escorted from the chamber, she felt the weight of an entire species' future pressing down on her shoulders. Through her comm unit, she could hear faint transmissions from the base, confirming that the fighting had stopped across the entire planet. Humanity now waited in suspended animation while their fate was decided by beings whose motivations they were only beginning to understand. The camp's Laughingstock had successfully made first contact with humanity's greatest threat. Now she had to figure out how to save her species without losing everything that made them human in the process. Sarah's holding cell was unlike anything she had expected. Rather than bars or force fields, she found herself in a chamber that seemed designed for comfort, albeit alien comfort. The walls curved organically, emanating a soft, warm light that seemed to respond to her presence. Strange furniture-like structures could be adjusted through touch, apparently adapting to her much smaller frame. A viewing portal showed the planet's surface far below, where she could see the lights of human settlements scattered across the continents. The fighting had indeed stopped everywhere, leaving an eerie calm across the world that had been a battlefield just hours before. The Harmony Keeper visited her regularly, bringing what it called Harmony Sustenance, a nutritional paste that tasted surprisingly pleasant and seemed to be perfectly calibrated to human dietary needs. These visits also served as continued cultural exchange, though Sarah was beginning to suspect they were as much interrogation as conversation. The Deep Harmony Council continues deliberation on the tiny persistent situation, the Harmony Keeper informed her during one such visit. Your species presents unique challenges to established harmony protocols. What kind of challenges? Sarah asked, settling onto one of the adaptive furniture pieces. Tiny persistents demonstrate unprecedented contradiction patterns, the alien explained, its electromagnetic emanations carrying undertones of genuine puzzlement. You possess advanced mind-voice capability, yet create destructive harmony patterns. You show cooperative potential, yet resist authority structures. You adapt rapidly to new situations, yet cling to harmful traditional patterns. Sarah realized that humanity's greatest strength, their adaptability and independence, was being viewed as a flaw by the Vrex. Perhaps these contradiction patterns are not flaws but features of our evolution path. The Harmony Keeper's three eyes focused on her with renewed interest. Explain this concept. The tiny persistent survived on a world with many dangers by learning to adapt quickly and think independently. Our contradiction patterns allowed us to find solutions that pure harmony thinking might miss. You suggest that discord patterns can serve evolutionary purposes? Sarah chose her words carefully, sensing she was treading on dangerous theological ground. I suggest that harmony and discord are both necessary for growth. She searched for an analogy the alien might understand. Like the way metals become stronger when different elements are mixed together, creating new properties that neither possessed alone. This concept seemed to deeply disturb the Harmony Keeper, who began broadcasting rapid electromagnetic bursts that her equipment could barely follow. She caught fragments about heretical thinking and dangerous philosophy. Such concepts contradict fundamental harmony principles, the alien finally said. The Great Purpose seeks to eliminate discord patterns, not integrate them into cosmic order. But what if discord patterns, properly understood, actually strengthen cosmic order rather than weakening it? Sarah pressed. What if the universe requires both harmony and controlled discord to continue evolving? The Harmony Keeper abruptly left without responding, leaving Sarah to wonder if she had just condemned her species or opened a new avenue for negotiation. Hours later, she was summoned back to the sacred resonance chamber. This time the 7 council members seemed agitated, their electromagnetic emanations creating complex interference patterns that made the chamber's walls pulse with conflicting rhythms. Speaking one of the tiny persistents, first among harmonies, began, its voice carrying unusual tension. Your conversations with the Harmony Keeper have introduced disturbing concepts into our deliberations. I apologize if I have caused offense. First among harmonies. Not offense, interjected another council member. Confusion spiral. You suggest that discord patterns might serve positive functions in cosmic evolution. This contradicts 10,000 cycles of harmony teaching. Sarah realized she had inadvertently challenged the fundamental basis of Rex civilization. Their entire worldview was built on the concept that harmony was inherently good and discord inherently evil. But what if that binary thinking was limiting their understanding? "May I share an observation about tiny persistent evolution?" she asked carefully. "Speak," First Among Harmonies commanded. "Our species learned to survive by embracing both cooperation and competition, both order and chaos. Our greatest advances came not from perfect harmony, but from the creative tension between different ideas, different approaches, different ways of thinking." The council members exchanged agitated communications, their electromagnetic chatter growing so intense that Sarah's equipment began overheating. "You propose that deliberate discord patterns contributed to tiny persistent advancement?" asked one council member, its voice carrying disbelief. "I propose that our advancement came from learning to balance harmony and discord, not from eliminating one or the other." This statement caused what could only be described as uproar among the council. Sarah watched in fascination as these ancient, powerful beings struggled with a concept that challenged their most basic assumptions about reality. "If this were true," First Among Harmonies said slowly, "it would suggest that our entire approach to cosmic order might be incomplete." "Not incomplete," Sarah said quickly, sensing the danger of seeming to criticize their civilization. "Perhaps simply ready for the next level of evolution. Perhaps the Vrex have mastered harmony so completely that you are now ready to learn the advanced principles of harmony-discord balance." The chamber fell silent. Sarah could almost feel the weight of cosmic implications pressing down on everyone present. She had essentially suggested that the Vrex, despite their advanced technology and vast empire, might still have something to learn from humanity. "These concepts require extensive evaluation," First Among Harmonies finally announced. "The implications for the great purpose are significant." "There is another matter for consideration," added a council member that had remained silent until now. "Reports from the surface indicate that tiny persistent military units have maintained discipline patterns despite cessation of hostilities. They demonstrate unusual harmony capability for a species classified as primitive." Sarah felt a surge of pride. Even in the face of overwhelming defeat, her fellow soldiers were maintaining their professionalism and unit cohesion. They were proving that humans could demonstrate the very harmony the Vrex claimed to value. "Furthermore," the same council member continued, "analysis of tiny persistent technological development shows rapid advancement patterns that exceed theoretical projections for their evolutionary stage. They have achieved space travel capability in remarkably short time spans." "What are you suggesting?" asked First Among Harmonies. "That perhaps tiny persistents represent a new form of evolutionary pattern, one that incorporates both harmony and discord, elements in ways we have not previously encountered." Sarah held her breath as she realized the direction this conversation was taking. The Vrex were beginning to question not just their assessment of humanity, but their fundamental understanding of cosmic evolution itself. Speaking one, First Among Harmonies addressed her directly. "If the Deep Harmony Council were to consider alternative protocols for tiny persistent integration, what assurances could your species provide regarding future harmony compliance?" Sarah knew this was the crucial moment. First Among Harmonies, humanity would welcome the opportunity to learn proper harmony principles from the Vrex. But we would also hope to share our own discoveries about the creative potential of balanced discord patterns. Perhaps together our species could develop new understanding that benefits both our peoples. "You propose partnership rather than subjugation?" another council member asked, its tone suggesting this was a radical concept. "I propose mutual evolution," Sarah replied, "each species contributing their unique strengths to create something greater than either could achieve alone." The electromagnetic chatter among the council members reached a crescendo, their communications so complex and rapid that her equipment gave up trying to translate them. Sarah waited, knowing that the next few moments would determine whether humanity faced extinction, subjugation, or something entirely unprecedented in Vrex history. The camp's Laughingstock had just proposed rewriting the cosmic order itself. The deliberations stretched for 3 days that felt like an eternity. Sarah remained in her chamber, watching through the viewing portal as Vrex ships positioned themselves in complex formations around the planet. Her comm unit had fallen silent, its connection to the surface apparently blocked by the aliens' technology. During this time, she received unexpected visitors. Scientists, philosophers, and specialists from across the Vrex fleet came to question her about human culture, technology, and ways of thinking. Each conversation revealed more about how fundamentally different the two species' approaches to existence really were. The Vrex had achieved their technological superiority through millennia of perfect cooperation and harmony. Every individual knew their role in society from birth. Every decision was made through consensus that aligned with cosmic order, and every action served the greater purpose of universal harmony. It was a civilization of stunning efficiency and coordination, but Sarah began to see the limitations of such perfection. The Vrex had essentially eliminated innovation in favor of optimization. They improved existing technologies and refined established patterns, but they rarely developed entirely new approaches to problems. Their harmony came at the cost of creative chaos. "Your species fascinates us," speaking one, admitted one of the visiting scientists, a being called Pattern Keeper Prime. "Tiny persistence develops solutions that our mathematical models suggest should be impossible." "How so?" Sarah asked, settling into what had become her favorite adaptive chair. "Your warfare patterns, for instance. Mathematical analysis indicates that tiny persistent forces should have been eliminated within the first battle cycle. Yet you continued resistance for 3 standard years, developing new tactics and technologies faster than our adaptation protocols could compensate." Sarah smiled. "That's because we don't follow mathematical models when we're desperate. We try crazy things, make wild guesses, and sometimes get lucky. But luck is random pattern. It cannot be relied upon for consistent results." "No, but it can be encouraged. The more different approaches you try, the more likely you are to stumble onto something brilliant. We call it thinking outside the box." Pattern Keeper Prime's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Sarah had learned indicated deep thought. This suggests that deliberate randomness injection might actually improve problem-solving efficiency. Exactly. Perfect harmony is wonderful for executing known solutions, but terrible for discovering unknown ones. These conversations were being recorded and transmitted to the Deep Harmony Council, Sarah realized. Through her, humanity was essentially arguing for the value of their chaotic approach to existence. Whether that argument was persuasive remained to be seen. On the 3rd day, the Harmony Keeper arrived with news that made Sarah's pulse race. "The Deep Harmony Council has reached preliminary conclusions," the alien announced. "You are summoned for final determination ritual." As they walked through the ship's corridors, Sarah noticed changes in the behavior of the Vrex crew. Where before they had moved with mechanical precision, now she occasionally saw hesitation, questioning glances, even what might have been excitement. Her presence had apparently introduced new concepts that were rippling through their society. The sacred resonance chamber looked different this time. Additional equipment had been installed around the perimeter, and the living star map on the ceiling seemed more active, pulsing with complex patterns that hurt her eyes to look at directly. Speaking one of the tiny persistents, first among harmonies, began, its voice carrying new harmonics she hadn't heard before. "Your species has created unprecedented evaluation challenges for the Deep Harmony Council. I hope that is not entirely a negative development. First among harmonies. The nature of positive versus negative remains under determination," replied another council member. "Your concepts have forced re-examination of fundamental harmony principles that have guided Vrex civilization for 10,000 standard cycles." Sarah felt the weight of that statement. She had essentially forced an entire galactic civilization to question their most basic beliefs. However, First Among Harmonies continued, "Extensive analysis supports your central hypothesis. Integration of controlled discord patterns does appear to enhance creative problem-solving capabilities while maintaining overall stability frameworks." Sarah's heart leaped. They had accepted her argument. Therefore, the Deep Harmony Council has decided to implement unprecedented protocols for tiny persistent integration into cosmic order. "What kind of protocols?" Sarah asked carefully. "Experimental partnership paradigm," announced a council member she hadn't heard speak before. "Rather than standard guided evolution or cleansing elimination, tiny persistence will be offered cooperative development opportunity." Sarah could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Cooperative development?" "Yes. Vrex civilization will provide harmony instruction and technological advancement guidance. In exchange, Tiny persistence will provide chaos creativity injection and alternative perspective analysis for Vrek's problem-solving challenges. First, Among Harmonies leaned forward, its electromagnetic emanations taking on what Sarah had learned to recognize as excitement. Initial experimental protocols suggest that Vrek's human cooperative teams demonstrate problem-solving efficiency increases of 37% over pure harmony teams. You've already run experiments? Sarah asked, amazed. Limited simulations using data models derived from our conversations. Pattern Keeper Prime's voice came from somewhere behind her. Sarah turned to see the scientist entering the chamber. Results exceed all theoretical projections. But this arrangement will require significant modifications to both civilizations, warned another council member. Tiny persistence must learn to channel chaos creativity patterns constructively, rather than destructively. Vreks must learn to integrate discord elements without compromising essential harmony structures. It will be difficult, Sarah admitted. Both species will need to step outside their comfort zones. Precisely why it represents true evolutionary advancement, First Among Harmonies said. Growth requires challenge patterns that force adaptation beyond current capability limits. Sarah realized that the Vreks had essentially adopted humanity's philosophy of growth through adversity. They were willing to embrace controlled chaos because they recognized it as a path to higher evolution. What would the initial steps involve? She asked. Establishment of joint research facilities on selected worlds, Pattern Keeper Prime explained. Mixed species teams working on problems that require both harmony precision and chaos creativity. Cultural exchange programs to facilitate understanding development. And most importantly, creation of new philosophical frameworks that integrate both approaches. The speaking one would serve as primary liaison coordinator for tiny persistent participation, First Among Harmonies added. Your unique mind-voice capability and harmony-discord understanding balance make you ideal for this role. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was being offered. Humanity would not just survive, they would become partners in reshaping galactic civilization itself. There is one additional consideration, the Harmony Keeper interjected. This partnership paradigm represents fundamental change to established cosmic order. Other species within Vrek's oversight sphere may question the wisdom of these modifications. You mean there might be resistance from your other client species? Sarah asked. Possible. Change patterns always generate opposition forces. But this opposition itself represents opportunity for further evolution advancement. Sarah almost laughed at the irony. The Vreks were now embracing conflict as a tool for growth, exactly the opposite of their previous philosophy. Speaking one, First Among Harmonies said formally, do the tiny persistents accept partnership paradigm with associated responsibilities and opportunities? Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that her answer would echo through history. On behalf of humanity, I accept. We are honored to join with the Vreks in this new evolutionary adventure. The chamber erupted in complex harmonies that made the walls sing with sympathetic vibrations. For the first time since entering Vrek space, Sarah heard what could only be described as joy in their communications. The camp's Laughingstock had just negotiated humanity's entrance into galactic civilization as equals rather than subjects. 6 months after the day that changed everything, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Discord research station, watching as human and Vrek's workers collaborated on expanding the facility. The sight still amazed her. Beings who had been mortal enemies now working side by side, each contributing their unique strengths to common goals. The transition hadn't been easy. There had been resistance from both sides, misunderstandings that nearly derailed the entire partnership, and cultural clashes that required delicate diplomatic intervention. But there had also been breakthroughs that exceeded everyone's expectations. Lieutenant Chen, came a familiar voice behind her. She turned to see Colonel Martinez approaching, his uniform bearing new insignia that designated him as a diplomatic military liaison. The mixed research teams want to show you their latest results, Sarah smiled. Martinez had been one of the most skeptical about the partnership initially, but witnessing the technological advances emerging from human-Vrek's collaboration had made him a convert. What have they discovered this time? Something about faster-than-light communication that apparently has both our species excited. The technical details are beyond me, but the team leaders say it could revolutionize interstellar coordination. They walked through corridors that perfectly embodied the new partnership paradigm. Vrex engineering had provided the structural harmony and efficiency, while human innovation had added unexpected design elements that improved both functionality and aesthetics. The result was architecture that neither species could have created alone. The research laboratory was a symphony of controlled chaos. Vrex scientists worked with methodical precision, while human researchers bounded between projects with manic energy. The combination was producing results at a rate that astonished observers from both civilizations. Sarah called Dr. Jennifer Walsh the human team leader. Perfect timing. We just had a major breakthrough. Beside her stood Pattern Keeper Prime, who had become one of the most enthusiastic advocates for the partnership model. The speaking one arrives at the moment of discovery completion, the alien agreed. Its electromagnetic emanations carrying excitement. Show me, Sarah said, settling into a chair that had been designed jointly by human ergonomics experts and Vrex biomechanical engineers. We've been working on quantum entanglement communication networks, Dr. Walsh explained. The Vrex approach was to create perfect harmonic resonance between entangled particles, which provided reliable but limited communication capabilities. Human approach was to introduce controlled chaos patterns into the quantum field interactions. Pattern Keeper Prime continued. Initial Vrex analysis suggested this would create system instability. But the chaos patterns actually increased the information-carrying capacity exponentially, Dr. Walsh said, her voice filled with wonder. By deliberately introducing small randomness elements, we created quantum states that could carry multiple data streams simultaneously. Sarah studied the readouts, her linguistic training helping her interpret the complex mathematical notations. So you're saying that a little bit of chaos made the harmony more effective? Exactly. Both scientists said simultaneously, then looked at each other and laughed, a sound that Sarah had never expected to hear from Pattern Keeper Prime. The implications were staggering. This discovery could enable real-time communication across galactic distances, revolutionizing everything from trade to military coordination. More importantly, it represented proof that the harmony-discord integration philosophy was producing practical results. There's more, Dr. Walsh continued. We think the same principles could be applied to faster-than-light travel itself. The Vrex have achieved excellent efficiency with their harmony drive systems, but adding controlled chaos elements might allow for speed increases we never thought possible. Pattern Keeper Primes. Three eyes focused intently on Sarah. Speaking one's initial concepts about creative discord patterns continued to generate unexpected applications. Your species has introduced possibilities we never considered in 10,000 cycles of pure harmony development. Sarah felt a familiar mix of pride and humility. The Vrex have given humanity access to technologies and knowledge that would have taken us centuries to develop alone. This partnership benefits everyone. More than partnership, Pattern Keeper Prime corrected. Evolution advancement for both species. We become more than either could achieve alone. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. The wall display activated to show First Among Harmonies broadcasting from the Virex home fleet, now orbiting the research station. Speaking one Sarah Chen, the council leader's voice filled the laboratory. The Deep Harmony Council requests your presence for ceremonial occasion. Sarah exchanged glances with her colleagues. What kind of ceremony, First Among Harmonies? Formal recognition ritual for achievements that exceed all expectations. The harmony-discord integration paradigm has produced results that require acknowledgement according to ancient protocols. 2 hours later, Sarah found herself once again in the sacred resonance chamber. But this time the atmosphere was entirely different. The 7 council members seemed relaxed, their electromagnetic emanations carrying contentment and satisfaction rather than tension. Speaking one Sarah Chen, First Among Harmonies began. 6 standard cycles ago, you proposed concepts that challenged fundamental Virex understanding of cosmic order. Today we acknowledge that your wisdom has advanced both our civilizations beyond previous limitation boundaries. I was just trying to save my species, Sarah replied honestly. By doing so, you saved ours as well, another council member interjected. Vrex civilization had reached evolutionary plateau. We were perfecting existing patterns but creating no new possibilities. Your chaos creativity injection has renewed our growth potential. Therefore, First Among Harmonies continued. The Deep Harmony Council grants you permanent status as Harmony Discord Balance Keeper, with authority to guide integration programs throughout Vrex-controlled space. Sarah felt the weight of the honor being offered. First Among Harmonies, I am deeply grateful, but I think this role requires more than one person. Humanity should contribute multiple voices to this process. Agreed. You will establish Academy of Balance Principles to train both species in Harmony Discord integration techniques. First facility will be constructed on neutral space station, designed by joint engineering teams. As Sarah listened to the details of what was essentially a new galactic institution dedicated to evolutionary cooperation, she thought about how far they had all come. The Vrex were learning to embrace productive chaos, while humanity was learning to channel their chaotic energy into constructive directions. There is one final matter, First Among Harmonies said as the formal ceremony concluded. Reports from Outer Rim territories indicate presence of another species that demonstrates interesting evolutionary patterns. The Zephyrians appear to possess unique temporal perception capabilities that neither Vrex harmony nor human chaos patterns can fully explain. Sarah's eyes lit up with excitement. Are you suggesting that perhaps Harmony Discord balance is not the final evolutionary stage, but merely the beginning of higher complexity patterns involving additional species contributions? The implications were breathtaking. Instead of a binary system of order versus chaos, they were discovering that evolution might require the integration of multiple different approaches, each species contributing unique perspectives to an ever-expanding understanding of cosmic possibility. It seems our real work is just beginning, Sarah said, looking out at the stars through the chamber's viewing portal. Indeed, First Among Harmonies agreed. And you, speaking one who was once mocked by your own kind, will help guide this expansion of consciousness throughout the galaxy. As Sarah prepared to return to the research station, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had started as the camp's laughingstock, too small and seemingly too weak for military service. But when the moment came that required not physical strength but understanding, communication, and the courage to think differently, she had found herself exactly where she needed to be. The battlefield had indeed obeyed when she spoke, but not because she had commanded it. Instead, she had listened to what the universe was trying to tell both species about the power of combining their differences into something greater than the sum of their parts. Outside the viewing portal, construction continued on what would become the first Academy of Balance Principles, where beings from across the galaxy would learn that strength came not from enforcing uniformity, but from celebrating and integrating the beautiful chaos of diversity. The tiny, persistent one had become the architect of a new galactic civilization, and the story was just beginning.